Okay, welcome back. Are you excited? I know I am. Today we're talking about the second in a series of leadership qualities revolving specifically around building a better culture. Are you consistent and are your benchmarks clear? My name is Lavi Schechter. For the last 20 years, I've gone from sales to sales training to leadership training. I love what I do. There is no one way to do sales, but there is a right way to do sales. People don't necessarily buy your product, but rather buy the advice that you have to offer. I want to share my knowledge specifically around leadership training. I appreciate you tuning in. Subscribe and like. Let's get started. Okay, when it comes to being consistent as a leader, the first part of that is having very, very clear benchmarks. Do your people know what makes for a good day, a bad day? Next, do your people know what to expect from you? What I mean is, in the morning when you come in, is there an email that you send out? Do you keep people updated on changes in the organization? I can't stress that enough. Are you telling people the good news, the bad news, and everything in between? Do you have scheduled time each week to talk to your people? One of the sayings that I love is that you don't manage a team of 10, you manage one individual at a time, and they happen to make up a team of 10. Finally, how do you act as a leader? Do you carry yourself in a way that's admirable, a way that people can look up to? So why don't we start with the first one, the clear benchmarks. When I say clear benchmarks, I think it's really important to let people in your organization know exactly what makes for a bad day, a good day, and an exceptional day. I would hate for someone to walk out of the building at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, or whenever it is that they walk out and not know exactly if they did a good job today. Categorize this for my people by yellow, red, and green metrics, so to speak. I want to sidestep this conversation just a little bit here because I want to be extremely specific on what I mean by yellow, green, and red metrics. Nowhere in that conversation should a revenue goal be included in red, yellow, and green. Because what happens is when people are attached to revenue as the only thing that creates a satisfying day in the eyes of their boss, if they don't close a deal that day or finalize a transaction with a prospect, then they will leave on the day feeling dissatisfied and disappointed. The red, yellow, and green metrics should have something to do with the process. What is the process that it took you to close a sale? What is the process that it took you to finalize an agreement with a prospect? It can't be about the end result. Red, yellow, and green have to be about the process so that if they had a green day, they walked out feeling really good. If they had a yellow day, they knew they did their job. And if they had a red day, they probably knew we were going to be talking about it the next day. Not in a toxic, get in your face, animosity sort of way, but at least they knew that a conversation was coming. And they knew that as long as I was consistent about that conversation, eventually the conversation didn't come from me. The conversation came from them the following morning, something along the lines of, hey boss, I know I finished in the red yesterday. Let's maybe grab a room or go for a walk to figure out how we can course correct today. The more consistent I was on yellow, green, red metrics, the easier it was for my people to understand where they stood. And you just don't want retention issues for something as simple as not knowing where you stand 24 hours a day. The second part is keeping people updated in changes in the organization. When something happens in the organization, it doesn't matter if it's really tiny, like a change in a font on an email, or something really big, like a change in an algorithm on the software that your company uses. It is so important to A, be in the know, but B, tell people about it as soon as you know. The last thing you want is for one of your reps, salespeople, or employees to be in a conversation with a potential client, and then the client asks a question that your reps didn't know the answer to because there was an organizational change. You never want to be caught with your tail between your legs because you didn't know something. That's embarrassing for your salesperson to not know about a company update, and then that embarrassment transfers up to you and then transfers up to the head of office or the VP of sales. Stay in the know, keep your people in the know. It doesn't matter how big or little the news are. Schedule a meeting, make sure people know exactly what's going on. Number 3, schedule time with your people. Now, this doesn't have to always be formal. I like to think of time scheduled with my people as a one-on-one to talk about things they want to get off their chest or things they have in mind for their future, career advancements, job progression. It could be formalized, and then I ask them to give me an agenda if they have something specific they'd like to speak about. Sometimes people don't have anything specific they want to talk about, so we just use this designated 15, 20, 30-minute window to just talk about life, and I ask them what's going on in their personal lives or anything they're excited about. But the idea is keep a designated time slot available to your people. And if they cancel, that's okay. But you never be the person that cancels in leadership. Nobody ever wants to be flaked on. Doesn't feel nice. And again, it creates unnecessary animosity between employee and boss. You want to avoid that animosity at all costs. Keep your one-on-ones. If there's an agenda, let them write it to you. If you have an agenda, write it to them in advance so they know what you're thinking. And if there's no agenda, still keep the one-on-one unless they cancel it. Finally, and this is a really big piece of the puzzle, how do you act as a leader, as a professional? Are you on time? Do you dress well? Do you compose yourself in a manner that people can look up to? Outside of the office, do you dress well? Do you compose yourself in a manner that people can look up to? This does mean social media. This does mean Facebook, Instagram, or whatever else you're involved in, YouTube. If your people see you acting in a way that's not professional on social media, believe it or not, they will feel like they're working for someone who isn't professional. There has to be a side of you outside of work that people can look up to, just as much as the side of you that's inside of work that people can look up to. I know that sounds a little strange. You're probably thinking, well, I want to live my life the way I want to live my life. And that's okay, you're allowed to do that, but once you enter the leadership world, you have to understand that your life is now on stage. The same way a coach in professional sports, they would never do anything detrimental to the organization just because they're not in the middle of a game. They understand that they're always on stage. The cameras are always rolling. In our world, it's not necessarily cameras, but it is social media. Social media is always rolling, so be careful what you post out there. You don't want anyone that works for you to see you in a light that isn't flattering.